It was supposed to be a peaceful escape, a chance to unplug, to breathe, to live simply in the quiet of the woods. The Harper family, a mother, a father, and their two children, left the noise of city life behind and drove deep into the mountains to spend the summer in a remote cabin. They laughed, cooked over fire, and took long walks on winding trails. To anyone who knew them, it looked like a dream. But then they were gone. No phone calls. No neighbors hearing them drive away. No signs of struggle. Just silence, broken only by the whisper of wind through the pines. For 12 long years, no one could explain what had happened to the Harpers. And then, one crisp autumn afternoon, a group of hikers stumbled upon the cabin, overgrown and collapsing into the earth. It looked like no one had stepped inside for over a decade, but curiosity pulled them in. The hikers explored the dust-covered rooms, their flashlights cutting through the gloom. And in the basement, behind rotting floorboards, they found something that would haunt them forever. Mark Harper was 42, a teacher, kind but stern, the sort of man who believed rules were what kept the world from unraveling. His wife, Claire, was 39, an artist with gentle soul, always sketching trees and wildflowers in her notebooks. They had two children, Hannah, 14, shy and bookish, and Ethan, just 9, full of restless energy. That summer, they'd chosen to rent a secluded cabin near Clearwater Ridge, a spot few people even knew existed. It wasn't on the main rental listings. Mark had found it through an old acquaintance, a man who described it as the perfect place to disappear from the world for a while. The Harpers arrived in late June. The cabin was rustic but cozy, stone fireplace, creaking with floors and windows that looked out over endless forest. They called relatives from a payphone in the nearest town to say they'd arrived safely. That was the last anyone heard from them. When the Harpers didn't return home in August, friends and neighbors grew worried. Police were called. Search parties combed the mountains. Dogs picked up faint trails that led to the cabin, but went cold in the woods beyond. Inside the cabin, investigators found plates still on the table, bed sheets rumpled as if the family had only stepped out for a walk. Hannah's diary lay open on the nightstand, the last entry unfinished. Something feels strange tonight. The pen trailed off mid-sentence. Despite months of searching, no bodies, no footprints, no clues were discovered. It was as if the entire family had been swallowed by the forest. The case grew cold. 12 years later, 3 hikers, college friends named Jason, Mia, and Tyler, were trekking through Clearwater Ridge. They weren't looking for anything but adventure when they stumbled upon the cabin. Its roof sagged under years of neglect. The front door hung open. At first, it was just curiosity. They stepped inside, laughing nervously, filming the eerie interior on a phone camera. Cobwebs clung to the rafters. Dust coated every surface. But then the laughter stopped. Down in the basement, behind a warped shelf, they noticed a loose section of flooring. When they pried it up, the smell hit them first. Sweet, sour, unmistakable. And there, beneath the boards, lay what looked like human remains. Police were called. Forensic teams arrived. The remains were confirmed. Mark, Claire, Hannah, and Ethan Harper. The family that had vanished 12 years before was right there, in the basement of the very cabin where they had last been seen. But the discovery only raised more questions. How had 4 people ended up buried beneath their own cabin? Who had placed them there? And, most disturbingly, why had the original investigators missed it? By now, the mystery had grown into a local legend. Campfire stories whispered of strange lights in the woods, of hunters who heard screams echoing at night, of shadowy figures seen near the ridge. When news of the hikers' discovery broke, the town erupted with rumors. Some said it was a robbery gone wrong. Others insisted the Harpers had been victims of a cult. Investigators, however, pieced together a darker possibility. In the basement, beside the remains, they found a journal. It wasn't Hannah's this time, but Claire's. The last entry read, "We don't feel alone out here. There's someone watching us. Mark says it's just my imagination. But Hannah heard footsteps last night. Ethan cried, said a man was standing outside the window. I don't know how much longer we can stay here. And if this story already has you hooked, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications. because we dive deep into mysteries just like this every week, and you won't want to miss what comes next. The journal painted a chilling picture. The Harpers weren't alone in those woods. Someone or something had been watching. An autopsy revealed that Mark and Claire had died from blunt force trauma. Hannah and Ethan, however, showed signs of suffocation. Investigators concluded they had been killed on the same night. The family hadn't simply walked away from their lives. They had been murdered, then hidden beneath their own home. But by who? The cabin's previous owner, a man named Walter Hensley, immediately came under suspicion. He had rented it to Mark through an informal agreement, but after the Harpers disappeared, he vanished too. Neighbors recalled he had a temper. One claimed he'd been obsessed with the cabin, calling it his kingdom in the woods. When police tracked down Hensley's relatives, they learned he had died in prison 6 years earlier, serving time for unrelated assaults. But the timeline fit. Hensley had been free when the Harpers vanished. He had motive, access, and a history of violence. Yet the truth remained murky. In the cabin basement near the bodies, officers found something even more disturbing: Polaroid photos. Dozens of them. Grainy images of the Harpers inside the cabin, eating dinner, sitting on the porch, sleeping. Someone had been watching them through the windows. Someone had been stalking them, night after night, capturing their every move. The final Polaroid showed the family together at the table. Mark's face tense, Claire's eyes wide with fear, Hannah looking down, Ethan clutching a toy in his hands. Behind them, in the reflection of the window, was a faint silhouette of a man. For the community, the discovery was devastating. For 12 years, people had hoped, no matter how unlikely, that the Harpers might still be alive somewhere. Now that hope is gone, but closure came with horror. They weren't missing. They had been right there, buried in darkness, beneath their own feet. If this story sent shivers down your spine, don't leave without hitting like, share, and subscribe. Every week, we uncover mysteries that remain unsolved, or worse, only half solved. Like the Harper families. What do you think really happened in that cabin? Drop your theories in the comments, because sometimes the scariest monsters aren't hiding in the shadows of the forest. They're the ones who smile, hand you the keys to a cabin, and tell you it's the perfect place to disappear. Until next time,